Welcome to Unit 3, Section 3, Immigration in the 20th and 21st Century. In this section of notes, we're going to be talking about immigrants a lot more than we've talked about in the other ones. The other ones we've talked about immigrants coming over here from different countries at different points in time. We're going to be talking about the immigrants that are coming today within the last, 20 to 50 years. We're also going to be talking about immigrants and the process of immigration today, and how that process is changing and why that process changes. So this is Unit 3, Section 3, Immigration in the 20th and 21st Century. Here's our objectives. Our focus question stays the same. What is nationalism's effect on immigration? That focus question has been the same since the beginning. Objective 1, how do you become a U.S. citizen? This isn't like the actual process. This is like there are 4 different ways to actually be a U.S. citizen, I should say. 4 ways to be a U.S. citizen. So what are those 4 ways? Objective 2, what are the different types of immigrants? There are many different types of immigrants. We'll talk about that. And then objective 3, how do you become naturalized? So if you are an immigrant who comes and wants to become a citizen, what does that process look like? So there are 4 ways that you become a U.S. citizen. The easiest, most basic way is called being born in the United States. If you're born in this country by virtue of the 14th Amendment, you are automatically a citizen of this country. So it doesn't matter if you were born and always planned on being here, or if you were accidentally born here, you are a U.S. citizen if you were born in the United States. The second way is that you're born to U.S. citizen parents, or that those parents of yours became U.S. citizens before you turned 18. So let's say your parents move at 17, you're 17 years old, you move to the United States, and your parents start the process of becoming a citizen, and they become citizens, but you turn 18 before they're citizens. You are no longer a citizen. They are citizens, but you are not. But let's say that you're 17 and your birthday is in a week, and they become citizens. Then you are a citizen. So they just have to become citizens before you turn 18 years of age. 3, you are adopted by a U.S. citizen. This was done under the Child Citizenship Act of 2000. So if your parents adopt you from Haiti and your parents are American and they come in and they adopt you, you become a U.S. citizen. And the last one is you are naturalized. This is the process in which we're going to talk about a little bit later here about actually becoming a U.S. citizen. So since immigration, there was the Immigration Act of 1990, these what we call quotas, which we'll go into more detail on later, have gone up by 40%. So we've seen that immigration up until the 1990s was really actually increasing significantly. And since about 2010 or so, immigration started to fall and decline again. And so why is that? Why does immigration seem to change, and how does nationalism impact that? So someone in the United States is either going to be one of 2 things. They're either going to be an immigrant or a non-immigrant. Now, an immigrant is somebody that has legal authorization to be here with the promise that they are planning on living here forever and they're wanting to become a citizen. While a non-immigrant is here only for a portion of time. They do have permission to be here. They're not illegal immigrants. They have permission to be here, but they, have very specific reasons why they are here, and they're not for long periods of time. So they're here for education, they're here for work, whatever it might be. They're not going to stay here forever, though. So non-immigrants could be students, so that's people who come to college here. Could be temporary workers, people who are just here for a construction job, or people who are here for agricultural jobs. People who are just visiting, people who go to Disneyland on a passport or whatever. These are all examples of non-immigrants. Now, if you're wanting to stay here temporarily, you have to get a visa, which allows you to stay for a certain amount of time. When I went to China, I had to get a visa too. In Europe, I just had to have the passport. But in China, I had to actually have a visa so I could prove and say how long I was going to be in the country. And same thing here. And there are different types of visas. There's student visas, there's religious, like missionary visas, there are, working visas. There's all sorts of different visas, but they specify I was allowed to, and actually still can, visit China in a period of 60 days. I can only be in China for 60 days, then I have to leave. And I can, as soon as I leave, I can come back and visit another 60 days. And I'm allowed to do that for a certain amount of time. Now, an immigrant is somebody that comes into the country and intends to stay there permanently and become a citizen. So they come here. Their whole plan is to live here the rest of their lives and to become a citizen. Okay, and there's two different types of categories of immigrants. So we've started answering objective 2. We've got immigrant, non-immigrant, but here are the different types of immigrants. Okay, there's what we call lawful permanent residents. These people have permission to stay in the US as long as they choose to not commit crimes and they do what they're asked to do, and as long as they renew their green card every 10 years. If they renew that green card, they are welcome to be here, no problems. They also cannot commit a crime. Now, crimes don't necessarily mean like speeding tickets or anything like that, but like theft or, assault or, murder, especially, those all definitely count as a crime. There's also what we call refugees and asylees. Okay. Refugees and asylees are both leaving their country because of some horrible thing going on there. Oftentimes it could be war, it could be their country is trying to kill them, there's genocide, it could be a lot of different things. Albert Einstein left Germany as a refugee and came to the United States to seek asylum from Germany. Okay. And most of the time they have to tie it to something. It has to be like, I'm leaving my country because people are trying to kill me because of my nationality or my race or my religion or my political opinion or my membership of a group. There have been several homosexuals who have tried leaving Russia because in Russia there is a lot of homophobic people who are very aggressive and have hurt and killed homosexuals there. There are Muslims in China trying to leave because China has had modern day slave camps for these Muslims. And so these groups of people try to leave because they are proving that they're being targeted and hurt because of their nationality, race, religion, or political opinion. Now, in 1960, the affirmative action clause in the United States came out and said that it wanted to have new and improved opportunities for women and minorities for these people. So as they came here, these people are obviously starting brand new. And so in the 1960s, they said we want to have an affirmative action case where these people can come and we might give them preference in schools and in jobs. You might say, what the crap? Why is that fair? Well, the idea is that if we don't and these people come here, then we either don't accept them, which means that we're going to allow them to be killed in their country or whatever. Or if we do accept them, the problem is they're going to become incredibly poor. And how are they going to survive? Because they don't have the skills, they don't have the ability to do the things that they need to do to survive. So we're going to give them preference in school and jobs. Okay. What is the difference then between an actual, why do we have the two words refugee and asylee? Well, a refugee is somebody that received permission from the United States before they left. So I'm from Venezuela and I write and I get permission to do that. Now, my family actually took in two different families at two different times who are from Venezuela. And the first family, they were asylees. They were not refugees. The second family was refugees, meaning the second family wrote and got permission from the United States government to come to the country.
Please excuse the interruption. We need to have all junior high girls basketball to head over and catch their bus. Thank you.
Anyway, sorry about that. So we are trying to. They got permission. They came over, and because they had that permission, they went in and they were able to stay with my family because my family was their sponsor, right? Refugees are resettled, and they are supposed to have some kind of a resettlement agency that helps them get a job, helps them get education, whatever they need in order to be successful. Now, understand this: if you come from a country where they're killing you, you might not have the time and the ability to write and to get permission first. So asylees are different than refugees in that they are leaving and then they're seeking permission. They're like, we have to get out of here now or we're going to be killed. So we need to leave now. And so they first leave, come to the United States, and they come illegally, but then they get permission because they can prove that if they hadn't left, they could have been killed or they could have been, all sorts of bad things. And the first family my family took in, this was actually what they did. They went into Texas. They proved that their family was being targeted for some political, religious beliefs that they had. And so once they proved that, they were able to be accepted into the United States, or they were allowed to stay in the United States, I should say, and they were able to then go to my family's home so they could um, get the help that they needed. All right, so let's look. You don't need to take any notes on this. It's just some interesting numbers for you. Did the most recent numbers that I could, and I wanted to look at the refugees and asylees in the U.S. at the end of 2007 and 2008. So the first number you see is in 2007 records, and the last number you saw is in 2018 records, okay? So let's look at a couple different things. Look at the refugees and asylees from China. 4,540 gone down to 3,061. Let's look at Iran. 108 to 53. We do have a couple countries where it's more. Look at India. We went from 357 to 956. Now the question is, why are these numbers changing? What happened from 2007 to 2018 that's making things start to change? And I'm not sure if I'm going to give you the answer because I'm not sure if I could say 100% why that is exactly. But we want to look at a couple different things. One thing it could be is that maybe the bad things that are happening in these countries, maybe Iran's just a better place to live now. I don't buy it myself. I don't think that from 2007 to 2018, all of a sudden Iran's become a much more peaceful, happy place. So I don't buy really that Iran is that way. But maybe China. I really honestly don't buy that either. But maybe. Okay. So it could be that. It could be that the country has not got the problems it used to have. Could be just better. Like Venezuela. Maybe we say that's what's happening, even though it's actually been the opposite. It's just gotten worse. But maybe we look at, Sudan. Sudan has been better since its, genocidal wars that it was having. So maybe it's going up because, it's still having those problems. Or maybe these other countries like Ethiopia are going down, not because there's any bad things happening in Ethiopia, but just because there's now good things going on. So we don't need as many refugees and asylees. Could be it. What else could it be? Why else would the United States be lowering its amount of refugees and asylees? Well, if you think about it, what about nationalism? How could nationalism play a trick in this? I'm not going to really go into any more depth when I talk about this more in class, but this is where we're starting to look and see, does nationalism have any kind of an impact on immigration? If we look at total number of refugees and asylees in 2007 was 8,001. In 2018, it went down by almost 2,000 immigrant or refugees or asylees. It went down to 6,026. These numbers all came from the Department of Homeland Security. Well, let's talk about like different regions that we have a lot more refugees coming from. So Latin America by far is the largest that we have. 17.5 million. These numbers are again based off of the 2003 census. Okay, so I should probably update this part. But last 2003, 17.5. And I think these trends are still true. A lot of refugees and asylees are coming from Latin American countries. Some Latin American countries like Venezuela are having more and more political problems, while others are being more stable. But people are leaving because it's not safe there anymore. They don't have jobs anymore. Now, you can't leave your country and come to the United States as a refugee or asylee just because you want better, job opportunities. That is not a valid reason to come for a refugee or asylee class. In Asia, we had 9.1 million, Europe 4.8 million, and then other people from all over was made up of about 2.1 million. So the total of foreign born in the US as of 2003 was 33.5 million, or 11.7% of the population. So about 11-12% of the population was made up of non-citizen immigrants that were here as either refugees or asylees. So let's talk about these undocumented immigrants here for a second. Oftentimes we call this illegal immigration. Most of the time, this is the largest percentage. A lot of people really think the border is where, and this is a problem. There are a lot of illegal immigrants that cross the border illegally. However, the vast majority of illegal immigrants actually came to the country completely legally. They had a green card, they had some kind of a work permit, whatever it was. The problem is they let that paper or that card expire You're supposed to get a green card renewed every 10 years. So if you let it expire, you're no longer legal anymore, right? And a vast majority of illegal immigrants today let their papers expire. Rather, again, that be a green card or it be something like a work visa or a student visa or something. So this doesn't make it so now that their papers have expired, they don't have any documents that allow them to stay in the United States. Thus, they become illegal immigrants. The Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 was designed to stop the flow of illegal immigrants by hurting employers who were incentivizing them to come. So we had a lot of Hispanics that were coming from Mexico to work in the United States, and they didn't care if their papers expired because their only reason for being here was to work at this job. And so the government came down and said, we've got to stop this. We've got to make it so we don't allow these people to be able to stay here based on employers. One of the major reasons that people come to this country, even as a refugee or asylee, is because of family. The two families from Venezuela that came to my family were here because their family was here. It was a safe place that they could come and be with the rest of their family. U.S. citizens and adults can sponsor a spouse, a parent, a child, or a sibling. Melania Trump has actually sponsored many of her family members into coming over to the country. She got kind of a lot of attacks for that because her husband was so, it appeared so against immigration, and they said, your wife's an immigrant, and she brought lots of people over. Lawful permanent residents can sponsor their spouse as well. So they're not citizens, but they can sponsor other people who are out of the country, and they can sponsor them coming in. There was also something called DACA that was created. And this was a lot of families came over and they came as illegal immigrants and they had young children, some that were 2 or 3 years of age. And now all of a sudden these children are illegal immigrants, but their home has been the United States. There's nowhere else they could call home. So they created what was called DACA, which stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival. What this meant was we're not giving them asylum or even like a free citizenship. What we're doing is we're going to defer kicking them out of the country, allow them to continue to grow up until they're older. Now, oftentimes they're still not kicked out when they're adults. They're allowed to get jobs or go to school or do other things like that, and then get lawful permanent residence, immigration, visa or green card. So, to becoming a U.S. citizen, first off, not just anybody can become a U.S. citizen. Only people with green cards can actually get become a citizen. There's only a couple ways that you can actually get a green card, and not anybody just can get one either. Here's the main ways that you actually get a green card. So first and foremost, you have to get a sponsor that's dependable. You have to prove that they're dependable. You have to be from certain countries. You can't just be from any country. And you have to have some kind of a relationship with somebody that's here. So example one, a lawful permanent resident who wants to bring her husband and a 2-year-old daughter from Mexico will have to wait approximately 5 to 6 years to be able to do that. Well, a U.S. citizen who wants to bring his brother from the Philippines will have to wait approximately 23 years. Why? Because of the status of who it is. This is a brother in example 2, and this is a husband and a 2-year-old daughter, right? So that is an example. The relationship of husband-daughter is more, it takes more of a priority than the brother. A lot of people that come over here are here just simply for employment, right? Sometimes we need immigrants to fill shortages in the workplace, nursing, computer engineering. Oftentimes we think of agriculture, and agriculture for sure we get shortages in that. So yes, immigrants are allowed to come over for that. But also there are lots of other jobs that immigrants come and work in to get training and then go back to their own countries. Every year there are some visas that are given to professionals with advanced degrees. Specifically, why would the United States do that? Why would they give special treatment to giving visas to professional advanced degrees? Well, it's the same reason we allowed Einstein to come over from Germany. He was a genius, and so we benefited from his genius. We want smart people to be here. Versus it's a lot harder if you are an agricultural worker just to get one, because they don't see the value in that as much. This could be an example of nationalism, okay? So there are a few visas offered to unskilled workers too, though they're very, very, very short on that. Okay, so there's just not a lot of them there. And again, that's an example of nationalism. So a lot of again people are leaving because of persecution. They have been killed. They've been in Myanmar or Burma, sometimes we call it. A huge population of Muslims have been absolutely just. It's been genocide. They've just started killing men, women, and children, and it's a travesty. And these people are looking for a place to go. If you were in Syria and ISIS came and Assad and all these other people, they're leaving. They're fleeing their country because horrible things are happening there. They also have what's called the diversity lottery. This really kind of sucks. Your chances of winning the lottery is 0.8%. So it's probably about as good as winning the actual lottery. Each year there is a green card lottery for those who want to come. They can put their names into the lottery and they can be chosen. They have a 0.8% chance of winning, so very very slim. The applicants who put their names in must have high school diplomas, and they have to have some kind of ability or a trade that they can do. Okay, so that shows you again some more nationalistic. We want people who are educated or have skills, right? If they do get chosen, the good news is their immediate family can come too. There will be visas given out in the lottery. People from different countries have been sent out, more than 50,000 people in the last 5 years. Um, and they're not eligible. This could include Mexico, El Salvador, China, Philippines, England, India, and other nations. So, not just any nation can even win. Not just any nation even gets a chance to come. Okay? Lawful permanent residents may become U.S. citizens. They have to go through what's called the naturalization process, the process of becoming a U.S. citizen. So, this is the answer to our last objective. To be a naturalized citizen, one must first have a green card for either 3 to 5 years based on your particular, like, why you're here and your, like, where you're living and how things are working that way. So based on that, all that situation, in 3 to 5 years, you have to have a green card. Okay, you have to be actually physically in the country for 2.5 years. You can't be living in Mexico and then be here for part of the time. You have to live here for 2.5 years. There's an application fee. I'm sure it's more than this now, but it was $700, $725 last time I checked. But I'm sure it is more expensive than that now. An application fee, by the way, does not guarantee you citizenship. You have to pass a citizenship test, which now all government teachers have to give out. So all students in the nation have to pass a citizenship test now. So, yep, you guys will have to do that before you graduate. You have to pass an interview in English. You have to swear to a judge that you will follow the laws of the U.S. and follow the Constitution. And you have to be somebody of good moral character. You can't committing serious crimes or do horrible bad things. You have to be a pretty decent person. So that's the answer to objective 3. So this debate of immigration, at times has been really really active, and at other times it kind of fades away. It's been really active within your guys' life. But if we'd gone just even 10 years earlier when I was growing up, nobody really talked about immigration, at least in really controversial ways. It just wasn't something we really were worried about. So what caused us to start talking about immigration? Well, it seems like immigration really started becoming an issue by two events. 2001, 9/11 happened, and 2008, 2010, the recession happened. That's when all of a sudden we started talking a lot about immigration. The question is why? What did those two events spark? This is something we want to talk about in class. And so remind me when we get to the questions and answers portions or questions and comments. Let's have this conversation a little bit. The debate center on all sorts of things. How do we like find the undocumented population? What do we do for them? They're hiding. They're trying to be, you know, they're trying to hide because they don't want to be kicked out of the country. So how do we help that? How do we fix that problem? How about the future? How do we look at the current immigration system and fix it? What are the costs of immigration, and are they helping us or hurting us? They are they helping other people or are they hurting them? How about family reunification? What's the benefits? What about all this stuff with the cages that were happening with the children that had family that came over? How about border security or a wall itself, or knowing within who's in our country at any given point in time? These are all things that people talk about when it comes to immigration. What we should know is that immigrants are fleeing and moving, and we've already discussed this in class, for two reasons: push and pull factors. Push factors are the reasons that make somebody leave: war, death, lack of jobs, lack of resources, lack of food. Well, the pull factors are things that attract a person to that certain destination. So they want to come because there is jobs here, there is safety here, there is happiness here, right? So here's some push factors. And you don't need to write all of these down, but I'd write definitely a couple down. War, famine, natural disasters, unemployment, underemployment, persecution, economic hardship, lack of opportunity, poor education, civil unrest. These are all examples of what would push people out of a country. What would pull them into our country? Well, how about jobs, rejoining their family, coming to a place that's welcoming, having good schools, social services, hospitals, education, churches, wanting to be a part of an already existing immigrant community. All these things are pull factors why people come here for their needs. So that's going to be the end of our notes there. I kind of have this little pop quiz here. We're not going to really do it, so don't worry about that. We're just going to kind of skip through this because there's things that we don't really talk about. So that's the end of our notes there. Hopefully you got all the answers to objective 3. Maybe we'll make sure we review them real quick. So how do you become a U.S. citizen? There's 4 different ways you can be, right? Those are them. What are the types of immigrants? There's immigrants and non-immigrants, but as far as it goes to immigrants, there's the non-immigrants are made up of students, temporary workers, and visitors. There's lawful permanent residents. There's refugees and asylees. And then there's undocumented immigrants, right? Those are the different types of immigrants that there are. And then objective 3, how do you become naturalized? We just went through that process, right? You have to do these things: have a green card for 3 to 5 years, be in the U.S. for 2.5 years, pay $725 application fee, pass a citizenship test, have an interview in English, follow the laws of the Constitution, swear that you will follow and uphold the Constitution, and have good moral character. Those are the ways that you become a citizen. So, folks, that is kind of our immigration set. I want you guys to be thinking about how nationalism impacts immigration and where we're at today with this. Thanks, guys.